a legend. I run with the crew that's making the moves. Get out of the way, we coming through. We got this, never stopping, and we won't lose. No, we can't lose. Yeah. Are you ready? Yeah. We are the legends. We are the legends. Yeah. Are you ready? We are the legends. We are the legends.
Well, it's been a trip from the United States of America and the streets of Detroit Belle Isle. Now we head over to the Rising Sun 200 in Okayama, Japan. Mimisaka is the name of the town this is quite close to, but the Okayama prefecture at the Okayama International Circuit. It's hosted Formula One races. It generally hosts a whole bunch of rookie races. Actually, one of the tracks I really enjoy. Cranking around here in Formula Vs, Formula Fords, Mazdas, and now that new BMW M2 as well. It's made its way to the iRacing platform. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's another edition of the RaceKraft V8 Veterans, Season 22, Round 6. We are beyond the halfway mark. Scotty Rankin and David Haynes to bring you all the commentary once again. Dan Yeaman is here. He had an opportunity to commentate earlier on in the season, but apparently messed with his microphone settings. You won't hear him for the remainder of the season. We'll make sure we shove him back down in his box nice and quietly in the corner, Dave. Don't you? You reckon keep down in his box? Let him out occasionally?
Yeah, I think that's the correct way to go. You can't have too much of a good thing. We'll spare everyone from that.
I can just hear the grimace from Dan in the background. Oh, good to see you all back once again, ladies and gentlemen. Okayama Circuit in Japan. Here we are, just about in the middle of the length of the country of Japan. That's what the track looks like. It's got a brilliant little layout, a little flip-flop between turn 2 and turn 4. And the Moss S is a brilliant little transition. These cars are definitely going to have to lift off. Short back straight on the run down to the hairpin is a lot longer than Main Straight as well. A lot of slow corners are going to test the technical capabilities of our drivers tonight over the 3.7 kilometers and 11 turns to make up our racetrack. And like I said, Dave, I'm a big fan of this track. It's brilliant fun to drive.
Yeah, then the next nearest big city is Osaka. So that's probably where you'd go if you're on your way to here at Okayama Circuit. That back straight is so critical to how you race around here because the rest of the circuit is known for being pretty tight. a little bit slow even. So a good run off Atwood, a good braking into that hairpin, and that's where a lot of passing can happen. We'll see what else happens around the track though.
Yeah, and opened in November 1990. So one of the newer circuits, certainly, but the circuit is 2 years older than myself. So there you go. How about that one? All right, jump across to have a quick look at the championship standings, because we're now beyond the halfway mark in the season, and the championship picture is starting to shape up. No surprises at the top end of town. It's Jordan Ross, who's won so many races across the duration here tonight. Michael Whiting, though, has managed to find his way into second place, and that will be one of his better championship performances, but he's a long way back. Paul Warwick slides one spot from second back to third after last week's endeavours. Dan Hall 7 points adrift as well, so there is a mighty old battle on for second through to fourth, and even on to fifth as well. Chris Burridge 7:35. Troy Stone Street a little bit further adrift. David Nash inside the top 10 for the first time in a long while. Sean McNamara starts to climb his way back through the standings after a couple of weeks off. Greg Sharp and Gary Buckland. Good to see Buckland inside the top 10 in top split. Biggest mover on the way up through the point standing was Wayne Walker. Managed to finish second last time out, grabbed himself 7 spots in the championship standings, moves his way up to... Okay, so it was second after penalties and bonus points as well, so it wasn't... that was after the shake-up out on track, plus 7 spots in the championship to 20th, and the biggest shaker, Jamie McKnight, slid 19 spots after not being in attendance last week, 33rd now in the point standings. And Jamie was off enjoying a lovely holiday all the way up in Noosa, but returns to us, I believe, here tonight. Right, qualifying is underway in the background, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, so the lap times are starting to come through for us as well. But how about tonight's race information? 200 kilometres is going to be the journey, but what does that look like in terms of the strategy and the important info here, Dave?
Looks like 54 laps, and of course 75% needed to be completed to be a classified finisher, starting with 50 litres of fuel, but able to refuel to a maximum capacity of 133 litres. It is a big chunky tank in these new spec supercars.
Yeah, and 3.2 litres a lap, somewhere in the realm of 115 to 124. Not quite a full tank worth of fuel to be thrown in tonight. Window will open at the end of lap 2, and the critical lap number to get home is lap 11 to 13, but that is a phenomenally long way to go on tyres, and I don't think we'll necessarily use that entire duration. Expect them to come down a lot later. Probably sometime around lap 30 is the longest they will be looking to go here tonight. The fuel graphs and some of the expected strategies we are tinkering away on in the background. Not 100% quite ready, but what we can talk about is the Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day from last week, and who was the lucky recipient of that one?
We definitely gave it to someone who followed the strategy of the Long Beach situation, with hitting quite early, loading the car up with fuel, and then really benefiting from when the safety car came out. I can't remember how I voted, and that's...
Damien Cairns was who I actually saw out on Facebook this week, with all the graphics coming courtesy of the RaceKraft V8 Veterans Facebook page as well, and Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day, Damien Cairns from Accelerate Sim Racing. So again, playing the strategy card, and the new Gen 3 chassis, that seems to be the way to go in the league racing. Because I tell you what, after watching Logitech Pro Invitational and calling that last night, having your head switched on and be open to the strategies was a big part of the racing that went on there. I expect the same here. Okayama short and sharp, Dave, and very difficult to get an overtake done. So I think there's going to be quite a lot of racing and a short lap time as well. Field spread may not be big.
Yeah, that's always the thing with Okayama, isn't it? Certainly quite a tight track, overtaking difficult, and then you're looking at your strategy going, how am I going to jump these drivers? Is it running long? Is it stopping short? Or is it trying to really gain a whole bunch of track position with a short first stop? What's the chance a safety car look like if we're all bottled up together? So that's all the things the drivers will be thinking about, the big picture, other than just trying to maximize their pace on track in qualifying and in the race.
Damien Cairns finished in 10th spot, gained himself 22 spots on the way to that one, and that was what earned him the driver of the day, using his head, using the strategy at a street circuit, keeping his car out of harm's way. Another tricky element I think we're going to see here tonight, David. I don't know if you've done much pit stops at Okayama, but that pit lane entry, she's a little bit of an interesting one, and here's when the drivers might be looking to file down the pit lane, some of the strategy options that are on offer.
Yeah, you've always got to be looking out for where does the pit lane speed limit actually start in the pit entry, and it's a long, narrow lane before you actually have to slow down. So you've got to attack that pit entry if you're trying to maximize things. We saw the very, very early stop strategies work out very well. They often do at the street circuits, but you go to these permanent circuits, chance of safety car gets lower, and the gain to be had from running it a little bit deeper into the race, like the blue or yellow strategies, increases. I can definitely see some drivers looking at that sort of blue strategy where you run long on the first stint and then don't take a whole lot of fuel. That could be a way that a few of them go. But starting with just 50 litres in a tank of over 130, it's a really wide window of how much you can fuel at your first stop and how early you can take that first stop too.
Yeah, and one of the big things that we're starting to note with this car across the duration is that the lap times plateau for a very, very long time. There's an initial drop off, and then they sit there for a long time. Talking to a few drivers about Logitech last night, they said you can really thrash the tires at both ends of the car a little bit, and they actually hang on quite well if the setup's compliant enough for it. So, it's going to be that skill in being consistent over a long period of time, which is really challenging the guys. But yeah, that is the fuel strategies that are on offer. Probably lap 15 to lap 16. The undercut's quite powerful as well. Getting that 1 or 2 lap undercut, getting it done. But the big thing over the last couple of weeks has been actually getting away from the starting grid, because gear ratios are quite short. Lots of tire spin, Dave.
Yeah, we talked about that a couple of times. You go to different tracks, and depending on the peak speed of the racetrack, you have taller gears, shorter gears, and your standing start on the very, very tall gears is difficult, but controlling your wheel spin on the short gears are also kind of difficult. So that's something to think about here.
Yeah. And qualifying's now been run and done. We've got about 3 minutes before we get into our gridding phase. We can take a little bit longer to take a bit of a crawl through this week's starting grid. And pole position, by no surprise, is going to be somebody who's had a few of them already this season, but seems to really be meshing with the new hardware, and that'll be Jordan Ross. Scott Gamble will line up alongside of him, so that's your front row. Wayne Walker has managed to make his way onto row 2, but he'll be behind Matt van der Kraan, so it'll be third van der Kraan, Wayne Walker, John Nathan, and Michael Whiting are going to be row number 3. So that's just sort of your top 5. In the meantime, the drivers are giving us little bits and pieces of their shots from in the sim. You can see them all in their preparation work, except for Travis Hunt, who's not available at the moment, probably taking care of a restroom break at this point in time. But Scotty Gamble from the top left, Timmy Nichols in the middle, Jeff Thomas in your top right. Travis Hunt's currently not available, he's sim and rig. John O'Gallen looks like he's got some sort of I'm going to say that's a looped footage going on board for him at the moment.
FaceTiming your uncle.
Damien Cairns, Kenny Latto won last week's race, and Dan Hall in your bottom right. All of them recipients of a bonus point. There's Travis Hunt just returning to duties at this point in time. So those are the drivers that have joined us on the Zoom wall here tonight. All right, jumping across to our starting grid. At a pole position once more, Jordan Ross continues to set the timing sheets alight. Lighting up alongside of him is going to be Scotty Gamble on that front row. Out of row number 2, Matt van der Kraan and Wayne Walker are going to be 0.3 of a second further back off of the pole position time, and that will put them on row number 2. Number 3, John Latham is continuing to find that resurgence in form. Lining up alongside of him is going to be Michael Whiting on his outside, nearly half a second further back for him. Row number 4, Michael Stewart And Jeff Thomas setting a near identical lap time. I can tell you down to the thousandth of a second, it was identical. Whether or not they were able to split them on 10,000ths of a second, well, we'll let you decide at home. But that is going to be who makes up row number 4. Row number 5 will be Travis Hunt and Damien Cairns, meaning that Travis and Jeff are 8th and 9th on the grid. Damien Cairns, after getting to 10th last week, gets to start there this week, a little bit further forward for him. Be happy with that one. Mike Poynton will be the first car outside of your top 10, and Ken Latta has bungled qualifying just a little bit alongside of him. And then we'll get a little bit deeper into the field. So Mark Poynton and Ken Latta out of 11th and 12th. 12th and 13th is going to be that of Christopher Burridge and Dan Hall. Dan Hall a little bit deeper in the field than he necessarily would have liked. Clearly not necessarily meshing with the setup this week. 15th and 16th is going to be Troy Stone Street and Stephen Kennedy for the WKMP Sim Sports and M1 Racing teams. 17th and 18th, Scott Mackay and Steve Grumley gets the ERT and SLS racing teams inside of the top 20. Tim Nicol and Brad Noble going to round out your top 20 on the 10th row of the grid. Outside E10, we get out to 21st spot will be Darren Crosby from Gary Buckland. Buckland, remember, inside the top 10 in terms of your overall point standings. We'll be looking for another strong race here tonight. Luke Orman and Rob Crisdale are going to make row number 12 from 23rd and 24th spot, just a lick under a second off of that pole position time. First driver outside of the second marker is going to be Jamie McKnight in 25th, and David Nash will start alongside of him in 26th. And then back to 27th is going to be Stephen Varga from Chad Lewis on 14th row of the grid. Final cars inside your top 30, Matty Parker in 29th and Christian Smart inside of your top 15 rows. Outside the 30, Robbie Griffiths and John Gallen will be 32nd, Darren Goosey and Scotty McCune 33rd and 34th. Bruce Tannick, the last car to set a lap time, and the last car in the session as well, 35th on the grid. 35 to take the grid here for what is a little bit of a short lap here. 90 seconds overall in terms of the lap time here tonight too, Dave. So quick, short and active, but that run out of turn 1 is going to be incredibly tight.
Yep, can't wait. Again, standing start, a fair bit of fuel in, short run to turn number 1. These cars are looking a little interesting on the cold tyres. Very, very rapid before the tyres get sort of overworked, overheated. So maybe you've got to make a couple of moves early.
Yeah, could be a dive to the pit lane as well. That undercut's becoming quite a more important strategy as well, because you can defend quite well. So managing to get it done and hold the guys off behind. We will be getting underway here in about 90, just a lick under 90 seconds or so. So time to get your hats on. Who have you got picked to potentially get this one away? Jordan Ross has been tough to beat, and it's tough to look past him on that front row of the group. We've had somebody else jump in. Michael Stewart has joined us. I wonder if there's a dot on the poster up there and behind him again this week, Dave.
Yeah, always got to play Where's Wally in search of the racetrack that we're at. Some are easier to spot than others. I'm not sure that we're going to go to Isle of Man in this category, but Nürburgring, Le Mans, Avis, very easy to spot on that poster.
Yeah, and we were at the Nordschleife for a couple of weeks ago. That was the easiest one. Somebody just basically drew a nice long lovely lap, and then a big old lovely red dot that was very, very easy to see. It was the easiest one to see of the lot thus far. Well, 30 seconds before we'll get underway, and the grid's been incredibly tight thus far. 1 second covering us all the way back to the guys in 23rd spot. So not much time covering the entirety of the top of the field. Top 2/3 of the field covered by less than a second. So incredibly tight at the pointy end of things. And we are going to be go for a race start here in just a few moments. Jordan Ross from Scott Gamble on the front row. Gamble will have the inside on the run down to turn number 1, but he will be a few car lengths further back. Who can get the launch? Who can get the run? Shorter drive ratio this week. Might see a bunch of wheel spin. Gamble got a good initial launch, but he slipped the clutch. Didn't get great drive. Van der Kraan did get great drive. Ross is going to try and hold on to it. Short run to turn 1. Round the outside from Matt Van der Kraan. Can he find something to run away with? Wayne Walker's going to try and slide through. Trying to pick up the spots as well. well. And how are they going a little bit deeper in the back? I can tell you they're still 3 wide on the run into turn number 2. And Ken Ladder's gone around the outside of Travis Hunt to pick his pockets as well. So they're all trying to cut their way through. Looks like the field has survived on the opening lap here tonight.
With the singular exception of Dan Hall, there was a bit of a pinch back there in the field, and at slowish speed, he got looped around into the pit exit. So he's down in 35th at the moment. Someone's nose to his rear fender. Was their nose moving, or was he moving across someone's nose? Certainly that's the kind of thing that happens. Very different getaway from a whole bunch of drivers all through the grid. You see Michael Whiting was up 3 and now he's back to 5th, and there's some other shuffling there as Damien Cairns goes to 7th as well through that very tight hairpin at the end of the back straight. A few drivers got quite optimistic, and someone else has got quite optimistic there, Chris Burridge.
So a lot of smoke as he's parked it up on the inside at the moment, so he will go to the tail end of the field. As it currently stands, the rear end of that race car is quite destroyed as well. Can't make your compulsory pit stop on the opening lap. You can do it at the end of the next lap. And I tell you what, Bruce Tannock's got the elbows out, and Dan Hall's just made contact with Darren Goosey as well. Tail end of the field, it was an ambitious dive bomb. So a couple cars involved, and there's Dan Hall and Darren Goosey's the car around in the background. So the tail end of the field. Something else has happened to Stephen Varga as well, who's now beached it in the gravel on the outside of the second last corner.
Look at that dust in the air in the early morning. It's cinematic, but for Stephen Varga, he's not going to want to see that one back. Also spreading a bunch of that gravel around. First car onto pit lane is Robbie Griffiths. So a bit of drama, but not so much inside of the top 10, with the exception of John Latham not getting a great getaway.
And for Robbie Griffiths, it's a drive-through penalty by the look of things, which might be a jump start. So that would probably be why he's transitioning down through the pit lane. It was a black flag against his name, now being cleared. So long transition. He goes to the rear end of the field. There will be clear air back there, but not where he would necessarily want to start the race. There's a huge break, by the way, from 12th spot, which is Mark Poynton, all the way back to Troy Stone Street. So the lead 12 was sort of gapped away, and then there's this next pack, and Stone Street's at the head of it. He's managed to cut his way through. Stephen Koenig's having a few connection issues as well at this point in time, and there's a bunch of gravel off everywhere as they come through the middle section of the lap.
13th is where Chris Burridge was, so then the contact there, the check-up, that's created the split between the top 12 and the rest of the field, and a couple of other gaps just beginning to form as well. First and second to Matt van der Kraan in third. Lightning start that Matt van der Kraan got, but again, short run to turn 1. Not a whole lot happened with that. It's going to take a bit to clear up the racing line in a few places here as well.
I think what's happening, Dave, is he's continually being dragged back onto the racing line. Is what's going on. Somebody, every pack is just picking up more kitty litter, more kitty litter, more kitty litter. So a little bit starts off, a little bit of a touch up as well. To the rear end of Travis Hunt, Mark Poynton's finding a little bit of speed and starting to close in on the JWM Sim Sports driver. There's a big old whack to the front end of that Mustang just in behind as well. You can see Travis chewing away madly at the gum. Says to me he might be just a tidbit stressed.
Well, he's already pulled his hair out.
Dave, you never cease to amaze. At least you know, if commentary never works out for you, you've got a career as a comedian available to you.
That's, yeah, one step further down the food chain.
You think it's down?
Steve Grumley leading his group here. David Nash has made a whole heap of positions into the 17th spot there from way down the grid. So it's an incredibly jumbled running order, as you can see, evidenced by the up and down arrows in green and red on the timing column. Hardly anyone by your top 4 are sort of where they started. A lot of big swings and roundabouts with, you know, a bit of contact, drivers spinning around, all of that.
Just talking to Grumley about the connection issues he's having in
Stephen Kennedy.
Sorry, my apologies.
You said Steve Grumley because you couldn't see Stephen Kennedy, such as the state of his internet connection problems at the moment.
Yeah, so that is one of the things that's going on. David Nash, in the meantime, has grabbed himself a whole bunch of spots on lap number 1. Definitely been helped out by the misery of some of the drivers around him. Dan Hall, Stephen Varga, not included, but included. But in the meantime, Matty Parker's also on the ascendancy. Scott McCune's cutting his way through the field. Those are the list of the drivers making the big moves in the opening laps. None inside the top 4 have changed positions. Michael Whiting's +1, so is Jeff Thomas, who's +2. And +5 for Kenny Ladder. So he did have pace, but just couldn't show it in qualifying trim. Under the back straightaway, looking for an opportunity is Nash. I'll jump on the anchors, and that one will devolve into another lap, being forced to sit there and wait. Scott Mackay's the driver just ahead of him, and Steve Grumley is just ahead of him as well.
So he made up a whole heap of spots to win a week ago. He's made up quite a few spots today, Ken Latter, and I wonder if he's thinking about an unconventional strategy today. I don't know what an unconventional strategy looks like, because I don't know what a conventional strategy is yet going to look like. No one has really pitted except for Rob Crisdale and Robbie Griffiths taking the drive-through. And it's quite a small amount of starting field this week, I feel. I'm pretty sure we started, closer to, 80 or 100 some of the other races. So this first stint, even this only being a 200-kilometre race, will be relatively short. And so I think quite a few of them will look to maximise it. And the likelihood of a safety car is feeling low. It's very deep gravel traps here.
Yeah.
They're not making it to the walls with any great speed in most places.
No, it's going to require pretty hefty contact between two cars to kick all that off. Scott Mackay just made a huge error on the run of turn number 1, so he's just dumped a whole bunch of spots and a bunch of kitty litter off between turn 1 and turn 2. So in the meantime, we'll sit, we'll watch, and we'll wait. Darren Crosby's slowly back in behind him, and this is the battle you can see from Jeff Thomas's rear wing. At the moment, managing to hold off Ken Latter as it currently stands.
Mirrors, we're looking backwards from JT, Ken Latter, and it's intense from the both of them through this really, really tight infield part of the racetrack. Bit of elevation through here as well. This segment here, 2 hairpins in a row, and it's tight, slow. Rear traction, pretty important through there, because you've got to pick up the power a bit, get to the next thing, pick up the power again. Not easily done. Look at the catch from Jeff Thomas, as gives the arms a good workout. Are we dragging any more gravel back on around here this time around? I don't think so. These guys are pretty well restrained.
Yeah, well, the difficult part is it's anywhere up and down the field. It's going to be sitting there the next time they come on through. So, and there's guys at the back end that are fighting quite aggressively. You can just see Ken Latter diving in on the brakes quite late and missed the apex a little bit, but caught up so much ground on the brakes that has closed and still closing now, as he ranges up on the rear bumper of the Jeff Thomas Mustang ahead of him. Getting close, but the opportunity's still yet to present itself. At the moment, just keeping an eye on the lead battle as well. Just had a quick look. Gamble has managed to relatively stick with Jordan Ross for now. And Ken Latter does get a touch closer, does get a little bit of a look down the inside, and Jeff Thomas, I think, saw him coming and just went, you know what, if I turn in, I'm going to get turned, and I'll live to fight another day.
Really using that little bit of camber that's on the inside of that hairpin there as well. So using that super well to just get a little bit of the inside line. Really short run on the inside of the hairpin, little run to the next corner, so you don't suffer from having taken that tight, narrow line.
Interesting to see if Kenny can actually pull away now that he's got that pass done too, and there's more drama, more mayhem down at the tail end of the field. Scott Mackay's night has gotten worse, not better, and Darren Crosby was the driver that was involved with him. A replay to have a look at this one, and Dave, what happened with this?
Well, I think 2 cars are going to come together, but the answer is Scott Mackay gets a little bit of the grass, and then as he's spinning around, he gets the rear of Darren Crosby. So he's gone a little bit wide, turning into the second of the 2 left-handers there, as Scott Mackay just caught a tiny bit of the grass. Of course, a tiny bit of the grass in Japan would be bonsai grass, and that's what he's got.
Yeah.
At some point, he probably should have reached for the brakes there, but I don't know. He kind of looks pretty predictable from Darren Crosby's position, and he's Yeah,
Oh.
okay. Both of them could have done
We're side
something.
by side for the race lead. Live pictures at the moment. I think Jordan Ross just had a huge brake lock up, and now Gamble's going to try and crisscross him. Does get to the inside. Is this an overtake for the race lead? You bet it is. Can Ross cross back? No, he can't. And he might be struggling with a little bit of temperature in the fronts at the moment, but there was a huge lock-up when they got to the hairpin, and that gave Gamble the opportunity. He was sniffing about it. He was close enough just to follow, but I didn't think he was going to be close enough to get the overtake done, and yeah, here we are.
Sixth string in the back. Again, super focused face because he's now got to the race lead on lap 7. Not too much longer to go in this opening stint, so that's probably good for Gamble. Matt van der Kraan was moving around just a tiny bit back in the third place there, where he's 2.5 seconds behind the race lead right now, watching eagerly, probably hoping that these two box on a little bit more. Be good for Matt van der Kraan, Wayne Walker and Michael Whiting, but of course Scott Gamble and Jordan Ross know that they don't need to fight each other too hard right now with 2 pit stops still to go.
Yep, it's all going to be about setting it up for the long time. And should I mention Bretton Hobson's wobbles last night and locking a front brake to escort himself out of a race, winning a free ticket into the Pro Series because his teammate Jordan Ross and team boss Jordan Ross has just done the same thing, and Ross now lunges on the brakes as well. So these two are going to follow each other quite closely for the next few laps. Van der Kraan's actually managing to stay relatively close behind and actually gain some time on the most recent lap. So for now, Jordan Ross, a little bit of a swap ends, trying to manage the rear end of that car. So many different traction zones and low speed, high torque traction zones. That's the critical nature to this car and track combination, Dave.
See how often the steering wheel ends up going in the opposite direction of the car's travel when they're picking up throttle out of these corners. Just takes a bit of effort to get that power down, and the rear walks around a little bit, particularly by this point when you've built a lot of tyre temperature in. And we've seen every time that they get a chance to really cool off their tyres, suddenly they're flying along faster, but this sort of sustained pace, the car's moving around, the tyres heat up, the tyres go past their optimal, and then they just keep moving around a little bit, and you're trying to manage that. So the thermal management is huge in this car.
Thermal and David management as well. David Nash, by the way, is still on that mission. Up 12 spots now, sits in 14th spot, so he has certainly made headway. I think will be now the most spots gained. Next battle pack, Jeff Thomas, we're talking about would Ladder be able to pull away? And the answer is yes, he has found a little bit of time to pull away from the front of this pack. Devin Cairns now with the opportunity to try and get a little closer and see if he can't pick the spot away from Jeff Thomas. But it's going to be about patience here tonight. I've just seen, I think, Jamie Knight lock a front brake and go straight on. My apologies. With Brad Doble. And it's at the hairpin. And now he's pinched a brake and dragged a whole bunch of kitty litter back onto the track as well. So that kitty litter and the new iRacing debris model is getting a workout here tonight, Dave.
Oh, it'll get just a little bit more from Ken Latter up the road as well, so it's moving around and moving around.
The race just chilling out at the moment as we work our way through the middle of the first stint. Remember about
Ken's got
5
Lewis
laps?
Hamilton gloves. Got
That's
yellow
not
gloves.
Ken
I
Latter.
think
That's Damien Cairns.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, okay. Bright gloves, very, very important, because if you are going to signal to another driver that you're going for first, you want to make sure they see it.
Yes, indeed. A little bit of a look around. Matty Parker's also up a fair few spots as well, so he's on the improve. Up 11 spots to 18. So there's a few drivers making big gains here tonight. John Latham's not had a phenomenal opening stint. He's down 5 spots and sits at the back end of this train that we've got on here.
There's that pit entry here at Okayama that peels off 2 corners before the start-finish straight. So it's sort of over the top of the hill there that you move right, then you're inside of the curb at the penultimate corner, well inside of the final corner. You've got a bit of a run down a canyon before the pit lane speed actually starts. Now that is Travis Hunt getting very wide in turn 1, very wide and late to the apex in turn 2. All over the place right now. Damien Cairns is going to be sniffing all over that. Jeff Thomas. I think I said Travis Hunt when I meant JT. Wide again at turn 4, but there's a couple of lines that work through this turn 4. So that one actually didn't seem horrible, even though it looked very wide early on.
Yeah, it's all about making sure you point the car at the edge of the corner and get the power down nice and straight and square. Damien Cairns is just going to show the nose, and it's forced Jeff Thomas to have a think about not turning in. On the dirty side of the road, there was a little bit of kitty litter on the outside there when he tried to run the long way around. Now he's still on the inside as they flick through a Volva, and now down the pipe with a second of the left-handers. 3 left-handers in a row, but they're all really slow corners. And a long way around, Damien Cairns prevails. Now it's going to be an opportunity. Stewart's going to try and slice down the inside. The cork in the wine bottle is Jeff Thomas at the moment. And the cork in the battle pack as well. Now it's an opportunity for Latham. He's going to switch back and try to get to the inside. Stewart had to go. And instead of gaining 1 spot, he's lost 1. Travis Hunt lights him up as well. Someone from this pack, I was expecting someone to dive into the pit lane, get fresh rubber on, get out of the queue, and they'd probably gain themselves 2 or 3 spots. Very easy.
That's those 2 hairpins in effect, isn't it? Very, very tempting to have a dive down the inside of either, and if you don't get your drive right off the first one, you are quite vulnerable to a lunge in the second one. Looks like Travis Hunt's done the reverse 888 and gone from a Ford Mustang to a Chevrolet Camaro.
There are a few drivers throughout the season have opted to change cars. I know Jamie Knight has changed around cars. I know Dan Hall, I believe, has got both of them and moved between the 2 different manufacturers as well, looking for a little bit of extra comfort. Why would they do that? Visibility and sound. So it's all driver comfort. Some drivers don't like the way the dash looks, some drivers don't like the way the interior looks. They think they get a little bit more visibility with the other manufacturer, and they make that switch for that reason.
In search of the best lease deal, you've got to keep shopping around.
Yeah. Yeah, not locked in. Won't lock them into a manufacturer for the entirety of the season. That's a little puff of dust there on the outside of the kitty litter. It's getting a fair bit of work out. I wonder how much kitty litter will be left in that exact spot. I get the feeling it's probably just about all been eaten up. But for the meantime, field spread, I believe we would have had a few drivers who have been in the pit lane by now. Jamie Knight's just been through the lane. Chad Lewis was into the lane at the end of lap 10. Chris Dale and Stephen Kennedy have both been to the pit lane as well. So that's the list of drivers who have made their first pit stop, but we're within 4 laps of making another one, and Travis Hunt now gets an opportunity to have a look at Michael Stewart. Run in turn 1, didn't quite get the opportunity, but passed up there.
Oh, does he get a tiny bit of the grass on the outside into Atwood turn 4? Again, never sure exactly what the right line is through there. Really depends per car, but we're going to have Dan Hall and Darren Crosby on the pit lane. Dan Hall, of course, well back early on, so his strategy is to stop just a little early. So the difficulty of isn't it, is if you're up front, there's no real clean hole in the track for you to play yourself into, and if you're out back, well, why not go for the undercut? So what ends up happening is the front of the field goes really, really long. The back end of the field tends to go really, really short. And the guys at the front are basically waiting for the guys behind them to pit so they can show their speed with fresh tyres.
tends to be the normal way about things. Not really anyone fighting in a direct toe-to-toe battle. Everyone's just sort of isolated.
Gamble's got himself just a little bit of time over Jordan Ross, which is sort of interesting to me. Just looking at their last lap times, where Scott Gamble is about a second away from his best, and Jordan Ross is about a second away from his best as well. Just trying to gauge how the tyre drop-off is gone. So it's about a second a lap at the moment. But yeah, I'd have thought Jordan Ross could have stayed closer to Scott Gamble here if he really, really wanted to.
And there's those lap times as well from Scott Gamble: 32.915, 8.78, and a 9.23. So less than half a tenth of separation across 3 laps. It is phenomenal. Deep in the stint as well, laps 11 through to 13. So not this time by, but next time by, they will all basically be on the edge of running out of fuel. So we will start to see drivers pit, if they haven't already. And I can tell you the track map's just about covered with cars. There's cars within a couple seconds everywhere. Is put in time. Gamble will pit from the race lead. He's not going to wait to be undercut. He's going to be the first of the lead group to dive to the lane. The big question will be, does anyone follow him? And the answer to the question is no, they do not.
And there's a man who's practiced his pit entry, because I think he just about nailed that one. It was pretty good as far as all the Okayama pit entries that I've seen. Pit lane speed limit is 60 kilometers an hour here. So that's a close moment down at turn 1.
That's John Latham trying to go around the outside of Jeff Thomas. Well, the best opportunity to get the move done. That's going to bring him back into the clutches of Stewart and Hunt in behind.
Also on the pit entry, you can't drive into the scrutineering shed, unfortunately. I think I've tried a couple of times. Not possible. 28 seconds for Scott Gamble. A couple of other shorter stops happening than that, like 21 seconds, 22 seconds for Stephen Kennedy, 26 seconds for Mark Poynton. So a few of them just a little bit shorter than how much Scott Gamble's gone and taken. But I think this time around, pit lane's going to be extra busy, because we've had about 10, still waiting on 25 more.
I'll tell you what, Stephen Kennedy's not done too bad for himself. He's got in, he's got out, and he's only a couple seconds behind Scott Gamble. So the undercut's really worked, and this is the pit lane entry for Jordan Ross now. So at the end of lap 15, no further than the fuel. Vanderkraan's got an extra lap out of the fuel. And keep your eyes on the track map in that bottom right-hand corner. That was Gamble circulating about halfway through the lap. So drivers that are coming in: Ladder, Whiting, Cairns, all into the pit lane. Matt Vanderkraan, Wayne Walker, Michael Stewart, all continuing on.
Jordan Ross's pit entry didn't look too bad. Again, couldn't drive onto the weighbridge in the scrutineering garage, as tempting as it might have been. A few more they're going to pull in here. That's just going to clear up the tiny bit of traffic for your race leader, Scott Gamble. So maybe this isn't the world's greatest outlap because of that. Jordan Ross takes slightly less fuel than Scott Gamble as well, so I think Ross will be ahead. Gamble's got 3 more seconds of fuel here.
Yep, that's a big old chunk of fuel, and that means that Jordan Ross should be lighter for the next little while. And the big thing for him is that if he's got a lot of race car, he should be a lot quicker. What he'll be hoping for, though, is a good green flag run. This is a safety car in this middle chunk of the race. That will probably eliminate a fair chunk of that lead. Now he's going to try and get some heat into the front axle and those front tyres. Trying to find the grip. So margin was about 2.2 seconds when he came out of the pit lane. It's dropped off to about 1.8 seconds through the middle of that, 1.7, 1.8. So as he starts to warm those tyres back up, he will have slightly fresher rubber the entirety of the middle section of this race.
Just a few drivers that ran a tiny bit longer in this opening stint. So Matt Vanderkraan just pitting, Wayne Walker, Michael Stewart, David Nash.
Oh, well,
Stephen Vargas popped his motor.
Yeah. If we're going to get a safety car, it's going to be right now because he is over and done with that engine. And that will be a safety car. First of the night, probably the only of the night as well. 16 laps in. And the only problem I've got with this is that, well, no, these guys can actually circulate back around and come back straight back in if they want. Jordan Ross has gone by. What does the rest of the field do? There is a big old cluster of cars at the pit lane entry, and I think Jordan Ross and Scott Gamble and Wayne Walker are the only three. Now the big question will be, do you come straight back in? Wow, has this happened again? Have we got the Long Beach situation 2 weeks in a row? I think we have.
Well, it's not quite, because this first safety car's a little bit too late. Everyone's had a legal first pit stop. And then are going to come back around for their second one, and we're just going to have a really, really long run from here to the end for everyone, because my judgment says by the end of the safety car on sort of lap 19 or so, everyone will have done 2 compulsory pit stops. So it becomes a real tyre management game, I think.
Yeah, that will be a shame. Because that's what I'm just, and 2 or 3 laps late, right? We're not talking much, but a couple laps late, unfortunately. And you're probably going to see the bulk of the field dive straight back into the lane for their second stop.
Yeah, everyone from 17th down has already come past pit entry and had the opportunity. Now that top 16 are coming back around and haven't been caught by the safety car just yet. So Jordan Ross leads Scott Gamble in.
Well, field is going to be frozen here in just a few moments. Behind the safety car, before that happens, there are some pit stops to play out. Mark Poynton's gone through. Matt Vanderkran's gone through. So the Reds
What's the reverse Long Beach situation? They're staying out.
Well, that's not going to work out for them. It's
Scott Gamble jumps Jordan Ross there, which is what we thought would happen. Gamble had 3 seconds more of fuel on board and was within 3 seconds when they came into the lane. Logic should dictate that Gamble, what?
That's
okay, well now Jordan Ross is back in front of Scott Gamble. Has he just done that on the cold tyres?
Maybe. Has rejoined. And he will lose spots. He's now just going to look up.
Oh my giddy aunt. That's bizarre. So through turn 1 on his outlap there, and he's either been distracted or had a technical issue, or he's just lit them up a little bit on the cold tyres, because he was racing to try to keep a little bit of track position there. So he was trying to get up to speed quickly. Oh, it's not getting squirrely off turn 1. He's sort of just aiming towards turn 2 and then looking for any jerky or weird moves out of the steering wheel here.
Yeah, I wonder whether or not he's got a mock.
Those are weird inputs. Like it's like his wheels frozen or his screen went black or something. They're weird inputs. It doesn't look like he's just absent-mindedly driven off the track. Who was it Lord Mahavir or someone else that just drives off the track?
Either way, it is how it is. Stephen Kennedy has had an update. So after all those dramas that he was having with hardware very, very early on in this race, has now resolved itself and he has settled down in terms of his connection. So the problem we've got for a few cars at the front of the town, and I'm going to run you through them, is Poynton, Vanderkraan, Stewart, Nash, Allman, McCune, all have not done their second stop. Jordan Ross is the leader of the drivers who have. Jim McKnight, Christopher Burridge both haven't, I believe. So the numbers just to the left of the gap to the leader is the number of pit stops now complete. You know, top 5 Top 6 only done 1 stop. McKnight Burridge also 1 stop. Tim Nicol and Scott Mackay 1 stop. Darren Crosby 1 stop. They all have a pit stop to do. Well, that looks like the entirety of the field who's only done their first pit stop.
Get ourselves just a little bit of a checkup behind the safety car here in turn 2. Do you know that there's a sleeper train from Okayama to Tokyo?
I did not. I knew about the bullet train. I didn't know about the sleeper train.
You seem like someone who's been to Japan. Have you been to Japan?
I've never been to Japan.
Okay. Well, just take it as a compliment that I imagine you would have.
Oh, I will. I mean, it's on the list. Japan is definitely on the list.
Yeah, it's on the list for sure. I like the seafood of this region. So the next biggest city is Osaka, where the fried squid balls are from.
Okay, cuisine. I can see myself spending a lot of my time in Tokyo if I was to make it over.
And then across the sea is Shikoku, whose tourism slogan is "They say it's Shikoku." So apparently they must. I'd go see some Japanese baseball. I reckon that'd be fun times.
I've heard good things about the Japanese baseball as well.
And I'd come back about 30% Asahi by weight.
Yeah, the problem of me heading over there is absolutely the amount of sushi that I would consume. Right, safety car pulling away into pit lane. Mark Poynton will have control of the field here in a few moments, and when he releases, and he's going to crawl them down towards that final turn, and then will release right at the apex. Gets himself the most optimal run, gets a little bit of a launch, a little bit of a drive away. Matt Vanderkrum will sit second on the road. Top 5, top 6, all yet to make their second stops. They will be near plumb last once they have, and immediately Jordan Ross is getting aggressive, would get down the inside of Scott McEwen, gets that job done. So one already picked off for Jordan Ross. And Scott Gamble's forced to sit, watch and wait, unfortunately. And now he's going to fire it down the inside as we did on turn number 4.
Yeah, so with that issue on the outlap, Scott Gamble not only dropped behind Jordan Ross, but put 2 cars between himself and Jordan Ross here on this restart. So Jordan Ross is kind of probably looking to pick off a couple of cars as quickly as Scott Gamble can back there. Keep just a little bit of margin between them. It's just as Jordan Ross, moves forward, Scott Gamble also looks to move forward here.
A little bit tough to get down the inside here, but he'll be targeting the exit of Piper, which is this left-hander right here. Get good drive off. Didn't quite get the drive that he was necessarily looking for to fire it down the inside and try and pick off another spot. That closes in. Good news is that Jordan Ross wasn't able to capitalise and make any benefits either, but now he's right banked up in behind Scott McEwen. And with 2 Scots on the racetrack and 1 calling on the commentary box, it is your top 3 Scots and V8 veterans. Could say, great Scott.
Absolutely could. Yeah, it's pretty defensive stuff from Jamie McKnight just in front of Scott Gamble there. He's still placing himself just half a car width defensively, and then Gamble looks for an over-under through turn 2. McKnight moves around a little bit. He's going to try to aim for this turn 4 dive again. I think he's going to aim for it, but he's not going to pull it off this time.
What he has done is forced McKnight to sort of turn in a little bit at the apex to try and cover himself off, which means his drive out the other side is not as good as he was looking for, and that has allowed Gamble to close. But Gamble, his mid-corner speed was good. The exit speed suffered fractionally late on the brakes. Does get the nose down the inside. Is going to get there as they enter the hairpin. Jordan Ross did exactly the same a couple spots further up the field, though. So they both gain one spot, which means the margin between them is still 2 cars that sit in the middle.
Jordan Ross to 5th as he gets ahead of Luke Allman, which is Mark Boynton, Matt Van der Kraan, Michael Stewart and David Nash still in front of him for the race lead, having stopped just before that safety car though. Everyone that's in front of Jordan Ross can run really long from here, and I imagine his strategy's got to be to do that right now.
And McCune does manage to hang on to that one. Nearly took Scott Gamble for a wild ride along with him. But everyone will make it out the other side. He'll lose a spot to McKnight as well.
You'd have to, come in as the neutral third party if two Scots collided, right? Try to keep the Scott peace.
Yeah. Won't let a war brew up in the Highlands. Someone's going to keep the tribes from each other. Currently living actually very, very close to the Scottish town in northern New South Wales.
I like how there's a suburb of Ballarat called Canadian.
Oh? That's a new one. I haven't heard that one. That's the first that's been brought to my attention. Michael Stewart's making a little bit of time here. Making a run back towards Matt Van der Kraan. Looks a little bit deeper in the field. Yeah.
Darren Crosby
moves around in the background. Darren Crosby has rotated the car. And he might have been helped. Which we'll get a replay to understand this one. Well, that is contact there from Michael Whiting. Does he achieve the required overlap before the point of turn in? He'll be close. And I'm not confident he's gotten all the way there, so that might be a penalty for Michael Whiting. It was a lunge from a reasonable distance back as we go back to live pictures at the moment.
Was from such a long way back that I don't think he was really going to get a good piece of it. But I was looking to see him, lock up and sail past the apex, but he didn't. He got his nose all the way down onto the curbing and stayed there. It's just he got there from a surprising distance back. David Nash dropping back, and it's not because he's pitted. It's because he's getting punched around. So Matt Van der Kraan goes to the lead of the race from Michael Stewart and David Nash. Jordan Ross is then just behind them.
Well, it's because Mark Poynton dropped spots as well. Poynton was the leader the last time over the start-finish line, and he's now back to 6 spots. So something has happened there. And this will tell us, I'm going to say he's probably gone in a fraction deep as they get down here to Atwood at turn 4. Yep, big front right lock up. So here he goes skating back through, loses a few spots. And Jordan Ross gets a bunch of freebies, and that debris system gets more of a workout. Did somebody say debris on track?
Yeah, we don't know where it is. So that's a rearranged top 4. Van der Kraan, Stewart, Nash, and then Jordan Ross. There's no cars between himself and Scott Gamble anymore. So for Jordan Ross, he's got to make moves here. You don't want to be in the position where you've got to force this issue against cars that still need one stop when you've done all of yours. But he's going to have to, because if he just sits and waits, then eventually he'll have Scott Gamble all over him, and we might get a repeat of the first stint. You've also got to conserve your tyres, because we've got 30 more laps to go, and all these guys are fueled to get to the end.
And an update on that Michael Whiting incident with Crosby has been given a drive-through penalty by race control to Michael Whiting. But that one did not have sufficient overlap at the point of turn in. So it was not required to be left racing room. And an extra trip through the pit lane, he will go. But nearing the halfway mark. A couple laps shy of the halfway mark means that this final run, barring a safety car, is going to be a long, arduous hang on to the tyres. And there's a few drivers who are still yet to make their second pit stop as well. They might look to run quite long and give themselves a nice handy tyre offset to see if they can't do anything. And the other benefit for them is that they're at the pointy end of the field, so as everyone in the mid-pack starts to fight each other, they will make some gains. Whiting's going to come through the pit lane and serve that drive-through penalty.
Jordan Ross not making any progress there. Scott Gamble getting just a little bit closer. Ross was super close to David Nash off the final corner. And didn't make the pass that he was probably hoping for. Jaws music for Scott Gamble.
Love to see it as well. Now closes to within about 0.6 of a second behind, and starting to make more time. I can tell you, if you look backwards now, he is just about there, and that is going to increase the intensity for Jordan Ross.
Nashy, the number plate for David Nash, so I've got to assume he had a hand in inventing those pairs.
Yeah. Do love a good pair. Softer form in the apple, really. Sweeter, juicier. And for David Nash, as he sits third spot at the moment. Sweet and juicy now. But later on in the race, he's going to have to take quite a hefty hit, but he's already cut his way through the field once. That says to me there may be an opportunity with a tyre offset to absolutely get some overtaking done later on in this race. Question will be is how long do you wait? And I'm going to recommend probably about to the end of lap 37, because that's going to give us 20 laps of the tyres for everyone. So maybe even a touch earlier than that. Lap 36. What are you thinking, Dave? Split the final run into two?
Well, I think ideal scenario for someone like Matt van der Kraan right now is that he does go and run another 10 or 15 laps. And then, you know, bolt and take his pit stop, put a new set of tyres on, and then have a safety car miraculously come out the lap later.
Everyone looking for a little bit of a way through at the moment as David Nash becomes the cork in the bottle.
Ideal scenario for Jordan Ross and Scott Gamble, obviously, is that this stays green and everyone in front of them, you know, has to pit and ends up back in 20-somethingth place in a whole bunch of traffic, and they clear out and battle to the lead. But you'd really have to keep tyre management in the back of your head, surely. Like, surely that's what this is right now for Jordan Ross and Scott Gamble and everyone else on their strategy, like Wayne Walker and Ken Latta. So this could be for the podium, right? Wayne Walker versus Ken Latta here. This could be for third.
Yep, he's currently looking like it's third. An update on Jordan Ross. He just got to the inside, got a really good drive off the final corner. Did get the job done on David Nash. So that elevates him to third outright. And the leader on effective strategy. For the meantime, Nash makes a little mistake at Atwood. That's going to present another opportunity as he gets wide and a little bit of the kitty litter. For Scott Gamble, will be looking to get this one done as soon as physically possible.
Yeah, it's good for Jordan Ross at the moment, but I think Scott Gamble is smart enough to realise how patient he can be, because we're just about to cross the halfway point of this race. So everything that's happened to this point, you know, 2 pit stops, the safety car has happened well within the first half of the race, and they've got a long run to keep this one going. You're seeing a few pit callers for their sort of second stop. You might have short-ish filled very early on. So Chad Lewis and Dan Hall and Travis Hunt and a few other drivers have gone second stop right now. So eventually these guys will clear out. Matt Vanderkraan could stay in the lead for a long time though, because he took a heap of fuel at his first pit stop. He often does that, actually, doesn't he? And so that will let him run a long way into this this part of the race before he needs to stop again.
Yeah, I was just looking at Vanderkraan's numbers. He's taken about 6 seconds more fuel than Michael Stewart. Stewart's managed to use the lighter car to go with him. Paddle deeper in the field for 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st and 22nd on the road. A group of drivers who have all made their second pit stop. Matty Parker at the lead end of this group for the meantime. And Christian Smart, Stephen Grumley, Brad Doble and Buckland joining in. So, drivers in the top 10. There are seven drivers that are still yet to make their second stop. Ken Latta has just been overtaken by Wayne Walker, who's got the elbows out. He gets the job done. So that will be a change for an effective third on the racetrack. So Walker does hang on to the spot for now.
Yeah, they're in behind Jamie McKnight as well. So that makes things a little bit more interesting for Walker and Latta. I did, of course, convert after last week to the Church of the Ken Latter Day Saints. I said that. If you won, I said I would. So,
and don't have anyone ever let them tell you that this isn't a religious business.
no, and I thought I was off the hook too, because then he pulled straight out of the way. He was really short on fuel. He let Jordan Ross and Scott Gamble go through. He was down in third place, and I thought the Long Beach situation is off. And then those two went and clattered into each other a fair bit. Latter came back through, and it was a true miracle. So I simply had to be a believer.
Yeah. Long Beach style situation or a Bradbury moment? How about the two put together?
¿Por qué no los dos? As they don't say in Japan.
Here we go, still continuing on for the guys. Wayne Walker trying to make some progress. And he was trying to make his way further forwards around Jamie McKnight. McKnight will have to pit here very soon. And Wayne Walker probably didn't need to do that one. And Ken Latta walks away with yet another miracle.
So he's round the outside, which is always a tough place to be, but we've seen it kind of work here. Then he's just... He has the slide wide, it snaps back as he corrects, so the rear steps out, gets that bit of gravel, and then he really needs to... He gets out of the throttle and steers the other way, doing both at the same time. It goes back to the right, and how quickly great dreams can unravel.
Yeah, and now they'll have to get their hands for Wayne Walker, who's on an impressive drive to what was looking like it might be a podium. Now he's got some work to do. Drivers starting to make their second pit stops that haven't. And they will get these ones out of the way. Brad Doble, I think that's his third stop. Another driver just recently making his third pit stop, Travis Hunt. So it makes me wonder whether or not there was damage.
How many times has Dan Hall been through the pit lane? 5. So, at least one drive through. And then, oh no, he's completed 5 of his 2 compulsory pit stops. That's...
What we're hearing is for Dan Hall, he has been to the pit lane 5 times. Now, this used to be the strategy to win the Bathurst 12 hour, because you do all your timed pit stops as soon as you possibly could early in the race, and that rule got changed. But for Dan Hall, the pit stops aren't timed. You probably don't want to do more than the required 2. But with that said, he is still in the pack and he is still fighting people. So, you know, live to fight another day.
It's Craft Bamboo that really gamed that one in the years of those strategies, and they realised perhaps it was a little bit silly. So it's black and blue gloves versus yellow and black gloves. Both of them on the monitors. We've seen a few of the drivers, like Michael Stewart, for example, with the VR headsets on. That's the way you got to go. You're either on the 3 monitors or your VR. If you're taking this super duper seriously, like a lot of our V8 veterans are.
This is the tricky part with the middle sector.
Shuckers right back at you, my man Damo.
How did he find the time to reach over and give us a shuckers? Because this is a hectic workout, this racetrack.
Oh, it's got to be instinct.
Unless he just does it constantly.
There's just a beep in his ear every 90 seconds. Tim Nicol runs well wide of that final corner. Track opens up a lot out of the final corner. You can kind of see it from any of the long angles that the track feels sort of 12 metres wide, and then it becomes 15 metres wide on the front stretch, and then it tightens up again in turn 1, so there's just a little bit more space on the front straight. But Nicol didn't get the final corner exactly right. Damien Cairns stays in place here to just keep rolling on. Nicol's only made 1 stop, Cairns has made 2.
Yep, so Tim Nicol will be a necessary obstacle. And the problem will be for Tim Nicol is that he will have a very light car at the moment. You can just see he just gets off the corners incredibly well. Now they'll go and try and track him back down. Out of sequence is Tim Nicol. But what do you do if you're in his shoes? I think you've got to keep running at the moment because it's margin that you're not going to have to make up. And very quickly we've raced towards 23 laps left to run to the inside. Now Damien Cairns, will he get it done? Gets it down the inside. These two not fighting each other on strategy, so not actually racing each other. So Tim doesn't fight it too hard is the big key.
Yeah, not quite his battle. And it's not with John Latham either. Oh, okay. It's getting a bit crazy for Tim Nicol here. And it continues to be a bit wild for Tim Nicol. It continues to be incredibly wild. He must be having some kind of problems. Surely he's having some kind of problems. He was sideways in the penultimate corner. He was out wide from the final corner, and then it just snaps into the concrete. Is that thing going anywhere? Oh, it is. It is when he gets a gap in the traffic, but it's damaged. And he's past pit in as well.
Yeah, so he'll have to do an entire lap, and he's not going to have much of an understanding of what's underneath him right now. He'll start to get a little bit of an instinct, and it looks relatively straight. So he's probably going to be able to drive that one back to the pit lane, and it will be the first of the drivers to their final stop. But he reckons there might have been a touch worth of contact in that one.
So he gets a bit there. There's nothing. Yeah.
So his statement's a bump and run. Well,
there was a bump, but there was no run.
No, yeah, and I would say the bump is there, and John backs it up. The bump and run's gone. Yeah, I'd say it's cleared itself.
I'd say that's fair because he knows he's hit Tim Nicol, and then he just backs out of it. He makes no attempt to pass him into the final corner, and unfortunately Tim Nicol just runs it wide, gets some crazy Japanese dirt on his tyres, and spins him up with the outside tyres on a dirty curb, inside tyres on the racing line, and does the rare rear-wheel drive torque steer.
That's right as he gasses it back up, it flicks back the other way. That's a shame, unfortunately, for Tim Nicol. He will make the pit lane. And that one's now resolved itself, but he will get in, he will get fresh rubber, and he will get back out there with an opportunity to go and try and hunt something back down. For these guys, they're in the middle of this battle pack for Troy Stone Street, Matty Parker, and I believe Scott McHugh. And have a look at the boxing that's going on at the moment between these guys, covering all the way to the right-hand side of the road. Christian Smart's trying to get down to the inside of Scott McHugh. Can't quite there. Yes, he can. Does get alongside. And he's being backed up a little bit by Matty Parker just ahead of him, though. We'll all single file back out once more. But that's starting... There's some tempers, I think, that are starting to rise in that little battle pack.
McCune's the only one here that hasn't made the second stop, and so yeah, but he still looks a tiny bit quicker than Stone Street, perhaps a tiny bit quicker than some of the others. Looking at McCune right now.
So all these guys back in and around here have definitely done their second stops. Mark Poynton now will go to the lane to do his final stop of the night. He will have about 20-ish laps to make use of those tyres. There's a big mistake down at turn 1. I think it's Scott McHugh. I think there's more drivers that have gone off in there as well. I think Christian Smart followed him off.
Well, the witness marks are super evident. 2 of them went off, going to drag a whole lot of sand and dirt back onto the racetrack. Yeah, Christian Smart also does it, just a little bit.
That's an odd one to see 2 drivers going like that. It nearly makes you think, have they got too much front brake bias in it? Have they? But that's not the first time we've seen that mistake tonight. There's something weird about the way this car is with the front bias. 100%.
Rallycross Vets.
It's just weird, but missing definitely in deep for McCune, but for the car in behind to follow him off as well was just odd. But that's if you're not watching the braking markers and you're watching the car ahead, that is quite a common occurrence. Well, in the meantime, Matt van der Kraan continues to log laps led. And he's probably not going to be too far away from pitting in.
Where did last lap between Gamble and Jordan Ross very equal? So where did Gamble drop back? Because he was right with Jordan Ross. He hasn't got passed through Michael Stewart. Jordan Ross isn't too worried about Matt van der Kraan's pace by the looks of things. It's is this finally the time that this back stint is long enough that they run out of tyres?
With the track temps. With the track temps, I don't necessarily think so, but what we'll be looking at, though, is that Jordan Ross was actually starting to come back towards Gamble at the end of the previous stint, so it seems the longer they go on, the more it starts to favour Jordan Ross. His mid-stint pace definitely favoured Scott Gamble, but the back-end stint pace, I think, went back the other way. And remember, that stint was about 15 laps. And we are now about 19 or so laps on the fresh tyres, so it should start swinging back the way of Jordan Ross once more.
Van der Kraan, David Nash in, Jordan Ross back to the lead of the race. Michael Stewart not pitting yet. Second. So Van der Kraan could have gone way deeper based on how much fuel he took if Michael Stewart's still out here. This is Jordan Ross as he got past Michael Stewart. It's just a couple of cars further back.
Yeah, well, nice and easily slid down the inside. The interesting part will be, we've got a couple of boys that are on fresh rubber right now. Where do they pop back out? Well, for Matt van der Kraan, he's popped back out in 14th spot. That's not too bad. And he has a little bit of clear road just ahead of him to make use of some fresh rubber. And the guys ahead of him have fallen off about 1.6 seconds or so from their fastest times. So there is a lot of opportunity here for if Vanderkrank can keep using these tyres and getting the life out of them and the pace and the lighter race car all at the same time. He's not going to get back for a race lead, that's too far, but he's certainly going to get deep inside the top 10, you would imagine. I reckon he might be able to get back to 7th or so. Might be a target for him. And with that in mind, Michael Stewart and Chris Burridge both yet to pit. And Stewart, I think, has now just come to the lane.
And Chris Burridge and Damien Cairns.
So the three cars you can see on the track map at the moment. The lead one is Jordan Ross, comes around on the back straight. The second one is Wayne Walker, who's about where we think that Vanderkrank can get back to, and that's Matt Vanderkrank down into turn 1 right now.
Whole chunk of cars going for a third pit stop right now. That's so interesting to me.
Surely it's not tyre related. I mean, it could be. In essence, it might be. I was only talking the other day about if we went to Haraf, the last of the supercars burned a lot of tyre at Haraf. It wouldn't be fuel limited, it would be tyre limited. You would eventually get the tyres to the point where they're blowing effectively. Oh, then again, it's just had a big lock up. And manages to pull the car up just. We'll lose a spot.
Ken Latta pits for a third time. Wayne Walker pits for a third time. Did they take enough fuel?
Okay, I just got a message from Sean McNamara, and he's not here, not racing tonight, unfortunately. But he said the tyre wear is huge, and it actually could be a thing. So that now explains all of those front brake pinches that we've been seeing. If the front tyres are just falling off a cliff, that is exactly what we're seeing play out.
Famously, the types of rock in the aggregate in Japanese pavement is different, and so the circuits have a different sort of grip, different sort of abrasiveness to them than is common in North America and Europe and Australia, of course. So it's one of those things where you look at the pace drop off, but the pavement can eat the tyres a little bit more than you maybe expect. Pace still looks fair enough. Scott Gamble makes a third stop from second place. They're all going to 3-stop this. No, you're kidding me, right? Surely pull the other one. Well, this is something that is Gen 3 specific. And yeah, so look, I'm starting to see a lot more cars will start to come back in. So I don't know if Jordan Ross is saving. He's only about a second off in terms of pace. His last time, so Jordan Ross's fastest lap time, the 32.059 plays a 33.071, which was his last lap. So his tyres are certainly hanging on. And Dan Hall last stopped 13 laps ago, so surely a 6th is on the cards. No tyre set limits, right? No. Just keep throwing a green tyre at it. I'm trying to do my best Neil Crompton there, in this session, just keep throwing green tyres at it and see where that gets you. It's Jordan Ross pitting for a third time as well.
There's a fuel limit. There's actually a fuel limit in the session. I'm seeing a fuel limit on the Ford Mustang, and I've just heard that the Camaro also has it as well. So
I loaded in with the Camaro at 70. What's the Mustang?
Yeah, 70%. So it is the same across both. And we were sitting here going, 133 litres, you've got your maximum fuel tank size. So this isn't actually for tyres. This is fuel limitations. Well, that goes ahead and ruins all of that, because we were starting to, I was going to have something to say there, but
Yeah, so they were never making it from that safety car in the first half of the race. Could have been a two-stop without any safety cars, probably.
And we'll have another look at the data now that we know that there's 30% of that fuel tank size that's missing. Oh, and just to throw another spanner in this, we were sitting there going, well, Matt Vanderkran's done. There's no way that he'll have a strong run. And we're starting to get set to have a look at how quickly he can overtake a bunch of cars. Well, he now sits squarely in between Jordan Ross and Scott Gamble. And we're now hearing critical lap number by all of our data and all of our metrics was completely way off. Lap 25 was the critical lap number. When did that safety car come out? About lap 17. Lap 16, lap 17 was the safety car. So it was too early. So it is not a tyre warning, but the tyres definitely are wearing a lot more, particularly on the fronts. This is the first time we've actually seen fronts go off on this car, which is good to see. I like that.
Does that mean we are getting a downhill sixth stop?
I would say yes, we do need a downhill sixth stop to get home. I don't think he can.
That's exciting. Troy Stone Street and Matty Parker directly behind him stopped 3 laps ago, so we imagine that they're good and they're going to have a bit of a go at Dan.
So he's going to be tight to make the end of the race, but it is possible for Dan Hall to make the end of the race. We're hearing now as well. So yeah, the data, the swings and roundabouts. That's the first time we've had a tank size in, I think, for the V8 veterans for this year. Which I think is relevant and important because it says that initially the race setup and the race styling was to leave them with the maximum tank size. But that says a shift of the race setup and style dynamics, which, I mean, it's good. It's going to give us varied strategy style situations, but something that we weren't prepared for here tonight. So there you go. Always pays to do your research.
I mean, the 2 compulsory pit stops thing really did mean if there was any chance of a safety car, you wanted to super front load your pit stops. So this kind of changes that a little bit. So we have had drivers completing 3 of their 2 compulsory pit stops, 4 of their 2 compulsory pit stops, because
2 pit stops.
That safety car came so early.
Travis Hunt's unfortunately just fallen off the racetrack and recovered.
At turn 4.
We'll get an opportunity to have a look at it. So Ree's coming out from underneath him, unfortunately, and has stalled the car just to make things worse. But gets it refired nice and quickly. It might be the end of that tyre stint for him. He might be coming back for another set. There you go, 3 stoppers here tonight. Gee, that's added to the drama, hasn't it?
Theoretically, some of the cars that didn't stop with the safety car could two-stop this, surely. Yeah, because that's what Matt Vanderkran's ended up as. Really big stop at the first stop, and then carried on through the safety car, carried on, got to here, to within a distance to get home.
And the battle on for second place on the road as well. It'll be a fair way to go to hold off Scott Gamble, but a little mistake, and that means that Van der Crown buys himself probably another half lap before he's back under pressure yet again. The big thing will be any time they can buy right now, he's going to have 11 laps to go at this next time past the stripe. And still a nice little margin in behind for him, so Gamble's going to have to chase and going to have to go and win this one out on the racetrack to go back to second spot. Ken Ladder's about 5.5 seconds behind these guys in effective fourth. Told you I love this racetrack, Dave. Pulling surprises on us that we didn't even expect or understand.
This is a whole heap of pressure on Matt Van der Crown right now. Scott Gamble. Gamble's tyres are just a couple of laps newer.
Oh, there we go. There's the send. Can he pull it up? No, he's pinched the brake, and Matt Van der Crown's just going to go straight back down the inside. But that's going to put some heat in those front tyres. And that is everything that Van der Crown will be loving to see.
Now Van der Crown's going to put some heat into his rear tyres, but surely Scott Gamble's more apprehensive about sending any lunges from here on out. That was a big lock-up.
The problem he's going to have is that if he sits there for much longer, they're going to just cook, melt, and fall off. His front tyres from Scott Gamble, particularly with a little bit of that late braking manoeuvre. And again, Van der Crown just gets off the corners enough, builds enough of a margin that he's safe. And again, Gamble looks for a little bit of an overlap down at turn one. Touch wide from Van der Crown. Now there is a touch worth of overlap. Now he's going to look for the crisscross. Got to prop him up at the apex, the next major braking zone. An overtaking opportunity is going to be the right-hander down an upward curve. Gamble's close. He's had a look the last couple of laps. Now he's going to search for a little bit of an overlap. He does get it. And out and into the marbles for Van der Crown. Just could not get the car to pitch in a touch too wide. And finally that job is done.
Jordan Ross leads by 5.5 seconds with 10 laps to go here. So if Scott Gamble's got tyre left or pace left, he's got to go. I'm not sure he's got that much pace. There's points where he's had more pace than Jordan Ross. I'm not sure he's had that much more pace.
And Van der Crown's tyres have finally given up the ghost just a little bit. Defended as long as he possibly could have. Tricky part will be for Scott Gamble. Can he start to make some sort of resurgence? You say probably not. 5 seconds is going to be a fair margin to overcome. John Latham's managed to make his way back up a few spots after losing 5 spots in the opening lap. Back into 8th spot, Luke Allman. I tell you what, he's hanging on quite well, up 16 spots. Gary Buckland, I feel, has to make another stop. He pit on lap 18. So he should be just about at the end of the fuel tank at the end of this one, unless he's been saving incredibly. If he can make the end of this race, that would be some effort. And tyres already about 1.5 seconds off. Maybe scratch that, more like about a second off. So if Buckland can get in with some fresh tyres on, might be able to make some sort of an advantage, but it'll be a fair way back. He's going to fall through the field.
Did you know that the highest placed Scott in this race is 29th and the highest placed David is 12th? Something to think about with both Scotts in 29th, 30th and the commentary box. I also note that
I think your math might be a little bit wrong, Dave.
Was my math wrong? Yes, Scott Gamble in second. Okay.
Yeah.
But he's a Scotty.
Oh, okay.
So it was Tim Nicol and John Latham that had their bit of contact, right? And we saw that.
Yeah.
So that was no further action, and I think fairly. But Tim Nicol hasn't seen it all that way. I saw him type "cheers, dude," and I think he's manually typed that out. He's not super happy about it.
And Gary Buckland will finally dive into the pit lane and get that one cleared. But yeah, good point. I hadn't picked that one up. Dan Hall's back to 15th spot at the moment. You know what, Jeff Thomas has fallen a few back. David Nash is up quite a few, as is JB Knight, sitting around that 10th spot at the moment. Straight away on the 47th lap of 54, 200 kilometers ranging in on its final 20 or so Ks, and the battle's still going on. Mark Poynton with fresher rubber trying to make some headway, and Jeff Thomas trying to be stout in his defense. They want this group as well. Troy Stonestreet and Matty Parker both have really, really fresh rubber compared to these guys. So an opportunity for them to keep gaining, and that's Stonestreet just in behind Mark Poynton's Frogleap Juiced Mustang.
I'll run the numbers. The average Scott position is 20.3. The average David position is 11th.
Well, look, the art of a good statistic is managing to get the statistic to say what you want it to say. I think you've done that, but
I love a statistic with a suspicious cutoff, like most runs in the subcontinent by a player who's played 13 and a half tests or more.
Why at that point? Yeah. But
I just know if you said 12 or 14, the person at the top would be different, and that's why you selected what you have. You just keep playing around with the boundaries until, you know.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting stat. Speaking of interesting stats, number of Scots versus Davids on the podium, 1 plays 0. So I think I've got you there.
Wow. So you're just going to abandon Mackay and McCune and cut them loose and you know, only celebrate your top.
Can I get Dave Kirby to weigh in on this one from the YouTube chat, who's been watching along all night? Unfortunately, in the floods up in the far northern Queensland, not able to race tonight. Kirby, where do you think you would be in this field? Just so we can, get another average to bring down the Dave numbers just a little bit. I'm hoping. Although, to be fair, Dave Kirby might just say I'd be leading the race, and then that throws my attempt at a appeal all out of whack. Oh boy. You know we're reaching when we've gotten the realm of statistics. But for the meantime, Luke Ullman hands on to 6th spot and 17 spots gained on the night. John Latham looking to spoil the party within sight of 5 laps from home. Going down the inside, and Ullman gets out and onto the marbles, and that is the lack of grip that you get out there. Now he's going to have to fight it back with Damien Cairns. Does manage to hang on to the spot, but Latham will skip through.
Tiny bit of door-to-door action there as well. John Latham progressing to 6th and qualified 5th, started this race in 5th. I've been getting slightly targeted ads trying to get me to open an NZ franchise. So They want me to make a career swap to a hose doctor. Which goes against what was thinking, which is I'm going to steal about $500,000 from my parents and open a Bridgestone Select.
Jim Nichols just had a huge moment in turn 1. A lap down. Unfortunately for him. And since the 32nd, like we said, off the lead lap. I believe he's actually the last driver running because... So
has he done something similar to Scott Gamble? So he's just come out of the pits, he parks it, he's looking for the traffic, he's on the curb, and it's throttle. So it's a right foot initiated incident.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like we said, off the lead lap as well. I wonder whether that was a drive-through penalty he just completed for instant point limits. Lead contacts, and the two fishy cars will come together. Christian Smart gets rotated, and I believe that one's about to be called into race control. Burridge has gotten through. Michael Whiting's gone around and still losing spots, back to 26th. Won't be happy at all. 20 spots lost across the duration here tonight. It's just not been his night.
There is a lot happening there. So Michael Whiting and Burridge are both too late on the brakes. And Burridge makes contact, spins him round, and then collects his teammate Stephen Grumley. Steve Grumley sneaks through and grabs a few here.
Yeah, interesting one. But Burridge's taking that defensive line, and well, you go a little bit deeper into the corner. The problem being there was a car ahead, so yeah, Burridge will rotate Christian Smart. Both lose spots, but none more so than Michael Whiting.
Allman versus Damien Cairns is the highest placed battle for position right now as Allman runs it a bit wide. Damien Cairns gets down the inside with 2 lap fresher tyres. Goes up into 7th place. That gap for the race lead's been just extending, if anything, a tiny bit. With now 3 laps to go, Jordan Ross has got 6 seconds on Scott Gamble. Matt Vanderkraan continues to just sit in the 3rd spot for the moment. Strategy's worked well for Ken Latta because he's done pretty similar to Matt Vanderkraan.
And all he needed was that little bit of clear air as well. Wayne Walker's still on that recovery effort. Remember spinning out a little bit earlier on. It's back inside the top 10 for him. David Nash in the dying couple laps also starting to close on Jenny tonight. That's just ahead of this battle that we're looking at from the rear wing of Jeff Thomas's car. And Mark Poynton finally sucks up the courage, will show the nose to the inside. Who's going to get the drive off that wood curve? They are going to remain side by side, and a final little wiggle on the way up and over the crest. It's going to finally allow Mark Poynton to get down the inside, and now he will have the inside run when they get down to the hairpin.
Once you get to that slightly more cambered inside line, it sort of it hooks you, and around the outside of such a tight corner is a much further distance than the inside. So getting a little bit of camber all on the inside there, you can often get clear to then take the left-hand corner and get ahead, stay ahead. Mark Poynton 12th right now. Exciting Dan Hall news. He's just in this pack as well.
He's done well if he's been through the pit lane that many times to keep himself attached to the back end of these guys. He pit back at the end of lap 26, it would be a 28 lap run of the flag, which is maximum fuel range effectively. Burridge is going to pick himself up a points penalty as well for the contact. So that solves that one. We probably thought that was coming. And finally, race now coming to its conclusion. Jordan Ross has dominated another night, had a little bit of a race. And at least hasn't had it all his own way. Had to go and earn this one back, but it was a mistake from Scott Gamble. Was in one of the right spots to potentially lead the race deeper in the race. And under safety car, he's going to drop him from first to second, unfortunately. Now, Van der Kran's done really well with the strategy to hang on the P3. He's troubled the leaders, which is the big key. Not enough to harass and harangue them, sit in second, and even the race lead for a very long time period. It's a lot to say. We'd say it's a very, very positive night. And Jordan Ross has indeed started the final lap of the race here. Driver of the day, though, Dave. Got to take a bit of a look around for that one. It's not Luke Allman, is it? Sneaking into the top 10 with plus 15 spots?
It might be. You've got a handful of drivers on plus 15 spots there. Luke Allman, Jamie McKnight, and David Nash, and Allman's in the 8th, so it could be. It could be Luke Allman.
Deep in the field. Oh, hang on. Is Jordan Ross out of fuel? I think he might be, and then Scott Gamble locks up. He's letting him go. He's not finding it whatsoever.
Well, what were you doing with that 6-second margin all of this stint? Surely he's had some other kind of problem beyond just the fuel.
It is. We'll get an opportunity to discuss and talk between these guys. This could even be Jordan Ross just going, you know what, he would have had the track. You would have had the track position. There was clearly a hardware error of some description, and he's given it back to him and said, you would have done it tonight. Van der Kran gets through and sneaking for the pair of them. Yes, he does! Matt Van der Kran picks up a race win. These two guys trying to play kindly and trying to hand it back and look after each other. And after payback for last week, Matt Van der Kran will steal one at the line. Two guys trying to be kind to each other out the racetrack, and Van der Kran will take an opportunity to win one.
Bizarre, even more bizarre than a week ago. Jordan Ross got the spot to Scott Gamble. Scott Gamble says, what are you doing? That's not how this works. And then as the two of them play a silly little game, Matt Van der Kran...
Hang on. Have a look at the margin between Gamble and Ross too.
Well, this is play silly games, and neither of them won any stupid prizes.
You can see the smile on Scotty Gamble's face as well. He realises what's going on there. Well, it's been a while between drinks from Matt Van der Kran, but yeah, in weird circumstances, he gets it done. I have no idea what to make of that one.
So possibly this goes back even to, the contact battling for the race win between the two of them a week ago. And so Jordan Ross is trying to pay it back a week later. And then Scott Gamble sort of pulls out, jumps on the anchors. They both jump on the anchors. Matt Van der Kran doesn't lift. There's the timing line. So the timing line is way down the start-finish straight here at Okayama. And Van der Kran gets the both of them, but only by 0.2 of a second.
Here we go. This is the timing line. We'll watch and we'll wait. But keep your eyes on the margin between Jordan Ross and Scott Gamble as we manually get a drone in position at this point in time. Slow it down. There goes one. Oh, look at the margin between them. That's what?
Jordan
just
Ross
happened?
says after you. Scott Gamble says after you. Matt Vanderkrant says after me.
I think that one's getting sent into the iRacing not top 10 highlights.
Yeah, it's odd. Yeah.
Well, look, it's sportsmanship at its finest, displayed in an awkward set of circumstances. There's nothing between them. Gamble's like a few millimeters further forward. We're talking millimeters. There's nothing in it. Wow. Okay, that's new. You always say something happens in racing that you weren't expecting that changes things up, and that is a new one. It's the attempt at the finest tier of sportsmanship. Matty Vanderkrant will sneak through and take it from the pair of them. Scott Gamble will get home second by 1,000th of a second over Jordan Ross, who does the gentlemanly thing after last week and hands over what was meant to be a race win, but becomes P2. Ken Latta will come home in 4th spot. Strong result for him late on. Found the pace, managed to drive through the field after a poor qualifying effort. Michael Stewart home in 5th. Latham lost a spot from his starting position in 5th. Damien Cairns, Luke Allman, phenomenal job. Bunch of spots gained for him inside the top 10. Wayne Walker, what could have been here tonight? Would that have potentially been a podium? We will never know. Jeremy McKnight home to round out the top 10. Good to see him back in the top 10 after not starting last week. David Nash will be the first driver outside of the top 10 home in 11th. Mark Poynton from Jeff Thomas. Troy Stone Street, Dan Hall making a run for how many times can you drive through the pit lane in one night and still have a reasonable result? Will actually be only one spot lost. Was that 6 pit stops and 1 spot lost on the night? That's one to stick in the record books. So a wild night for a bunch of different people. Buddy Parker, Chad Lewis, Stephen Grumley, Chris Burridge with the incident late on, and Christian Smart home 20th. Well, that was back 39 seconds off of the race lead. Robbie Crisdale home just outside of the 20 from Gary Buckland, who had that late pit stop, was charging hard, got back to 22nd spot. Brad Doble, Robbie Griffiths, Michael Whiting 25th, John Gallen, Darren Crosby, Scott Mackay, Darren Goosey, Scott McCune. The wheel fell off the wagon, unfortunately for him, home in 30th. Travis Hunt, I would say, probably had a drive-through penalty at some stage, finished just about a lap off the lead in 31st. Tim Nicol, just 1 lap off the lead. Stephen Varga, 12 laps down, I believe, will still be classified because he got to the end of lap 42. Needed to get to the end of 41. The 2 retirements, Stephen Kennedy and Bruce Tannock. And that is the results, and we've got some interviews to conduct, but I get the feeling they're in there talking to each other and showing appreciation and sportsmanship, but we'll talk to the driver sitting out of 3rd place at the moment. Jordan, we were just discussing that one in here. That's a new one. When a driver trying to offer back up a win after contact last week gives away not only the win but also 2nd spot as well.
It's all good, mate. It's all Matty got a win, and I just wanted to give that place back because I killed Scotty last week, and it's probably the right thing to do. So, but we sort of messed it up. We were just having a laugh in the green room there. We just sort of messed it up at the end, but it's all good.
At the end of the day, it's trying to do the right thing. It's not about cheesing a win or trying to give everything up. It's, we went racing with respect. I crossed a line. I crossed it a little bit, and this is how I pay it forward.
Yeah, mate, that's what Vets is all about. So, you don't want to be belting into people and all that. Like, I'm going to be racing Scott a lot, so don't want to be bashing into him and taking wins off him and vice versa. So, that was an awkward old track to drive. I'll give you the tip.
How was the tyre wear here tonight? Because it looked like everyone was struggling with fronts at different points in the stint.
I was struggling with little screen glitches the whole race. So I don't know what was going on. I did plenty of laps at Motorsport this week and didn't have the problem. But at this track, I had heaps of problems all week with little screen glitches. And I think Gamble, that's why he ran off. I think he was just saying he had a screen freeze as well. So I don't know what's going on. But that was the biggest concern all night. And when I was in the safety, like in the safety car in the pack, I didn't really want to push up on people, because when I was amongst people, it was even worse. So don't know what that's all about. We'll have to fix that for next week.
Look into a few different little bits and pieces, mate. Well, congratulations on the sportsmanship. Who would you like to give a shout out, a thank you to here tonight?
Mate, just all you guys and SimSpeed and all the organisers of Vets. Loving it. It's good fun racing, and the strats are brings lots of guys into it, so it's really cool.
Mate, congratulations here again, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks, guys.
Taking one step further forward up the podium, David Haynes has Scotty Gamble on standby.
Well, an odd little race, that one, Scott, around the safety car timing, the fuel tank limit, not even thinking about that final lap, and you left a lockup or two out there as well.
Yeah, mate. I said I was going to send it. I mean, I've got nothing to lose, so I'm going to have a go. And I actually enjoyed it because got some overtakes done, and really sort of tried to push the car hard. I mean, the car was difficult to drive here. I think it was a talking point about it, but I just pushed it as hard as I could, and it was good fun. Like, that's what it's good to get back into that, where we're just having a bit of fun on track and drive our best, do our best, and push our limits. And that's sort of where I was at tonight, having fun, and that's how I'll treat the rest of the season.
Is that a new trim up top?
Oh yeah, I did get a cut. I took the young lad down. We go to a place here in Traralgon called Ramsey's Barbers. They've been there for about 60 odd years, I think, and it's the son who's doing it now. So me and my son go in there, and we get our ears lowered there every 4, 5, 6 weeks, something like that, mate.
Yeah, fantastic. So, I mean, how do you then negotiate the safety car? Because I think most of you guys had just pitted, and then, it comes out, and you're looking at a cheap stop, but one that's not going to get you to the end.
Yeah, it was an interesting one because I wasn't sure whether we could get to the end or not. I only just read the sub-regs as we were sitting on the grid and realised it was 70% tank. So I think it was 93 litres we had, and I was like, well, it might be like 10 litres short or something, So coming into that safety car, was a really inconvenient time for me and Jordan. Like, it was a horrible time, well, for those that pitted around where we did. So I just came in and left about 20 odd litres that I needed at the end. So I think I ended up having to take about 23, 24 litres at the end there, just enough to cover tyres and a bit. But yeah, I mean, safety car mixes it up. It has all its season, hasn't it? And I mean, it benefits some and others sort of miss out on it. So it's one of those variables, I guess. And yeah, it spiced it up a bit, guys. I thought there was a bit of action after that, so it was good.
Well, I mean, not quite how we wanted this one to end. Matt van der Kraan pipping both of you guys.
Yeah, that's fine. Good on him. I know what Jordan was doing. He was trying to give it back to me for last week, and I wasn't going to have a bar of it. and we were playing around, coming towards the line, and Matt, to his credit, he took it and went with it, and so he should. So well done to Matt. You can't knock a bloke for that, and I'm super happy that he got it. And that's Jordan himself just messing around, and we got called out, didn't we? So that's the way it rolls. But yeah, good on Matt. It was awesome.
Well, congrats. Hopefully we'll see you for a couple more races this season, and good luck with all.
Yeah, cheers, guys, and just shout out to our sponsors over at 9to5. I'd like to give RaceKraft, RSW Graphics. He does an awesome libraries. Track School Track Days, I think, is in there now, and Racing Ease and Prestige Cinematography. So thanks to them and the team, and hope Logan went well in Split 2. But well done to Matty. Don't take the win away from me. Thoroughly deserved that, and I'm super stoked for him and Jordan. That was good fun. We had a good race until, a couple of incidents. I've got some PC hardware issues where the screens are just freezing for 2-3 seconds. So there's a little bit of an issue going on there. We'll have to try and sort out. But yeah, good fun otherwise, and thank you guys. See you.
Is that every track or just here?
I had it a couple of times now, so it's not every track, but it seems to be a little bit more regularly than what it used to be, and it's just freezing 2-3 seconds. That's why I ran off the track under the safety car. I couldn't see anything. It just went straight ahead, and I was like, hope I don't hit a wall. And yeah, and the other week I was doing a race and I went around the last turn, same thing happened, bang, straight in the wall. Didn't even know until it happened. So I don't know what it is. Probably something in my PC, I think. I'll have to have a look at it all. Although I think lots of people are having a few issues, big issues like that actually, so we'll see. Who knows?
Oh, well, good luck troubleshooting that.
Yeah, it'll be fun. All right, thanks guys, see you.
Well, Scotty Gamble managed place here on the night, but we'll step one step further forward and grab tonight's race winner, Matty van der Kraan. It has been a long time between drinks for you, brother. Weird, exceptional circumstances to get it in, but hey, when the boys come out and they play around a little bit trying to do the right thing, well, race car driver's got to do what a race car driver's got to do, right?
No, after you, sir. No, after you, sir. No, after you, sir. All right, boys, bye.
Yeah, well, I mean, when the opportunity presents itself, mate, you've certainly got to take. You led a long portion of that race too through the middle stint. You might have actually led the most laps here at the end of tonight as well. So that's something else to sort of keep in the back of your mind. Might be a potential for another bonus point to go your way. But it seems as if everything's starting to come back to you. It seems like you've found something in this new generation of car.
Mate, yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying the car. The pit stops went my way tonight. The safety car got called as I was in the pit, so I could put a heap of fuel in on the first stop, which helped enormously. But yeah, I'm loving this car. It's great fun.
Mate, talk to us a little bit about Okayama. Tiny little track, technical little track, and little's probably the right word for it. It's not really designed for these larger cars, but boy, she's a fun car, racetrack to drive to.
It's funny, it's one of those rare tracks where I still even jumped on tonight and I'd done 1 or 2 laps before I got here tonight and I was still setting purple sectors. You could always find that little bit of room for improvement just by, the different approach to a corner or cutting a bit off more of the curb or getting on the gas or, later apex, whatever it might have been. There was, there's only, what have we got, 11 turns, but you could always find time. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
In terms of things, the season's been going relatively well for you thus far. You're really enjoying the new generation of race car. Is there anything you're attributing to the success to at the moment?
No, not really. I'm probably in a fortunate position where I'll probably get more laps in than a lot of other people. So seat time always obviously helps enormously. So yeah, I'd say that's helped me a fair bit.
Mate, and finally, is there anyone that you'd like to give a big old shout out and a thank you to and celebrate this race win with tonight?
Yeah, mate, my first win ever in Vets, so that's pretty exciting. Look, obviously RaceKraft is the major sponsors of the league, and as I say, the few times I get to talk to you guys, but I'm so appreciative of the work the admin and race control and all the splits do to make this league possible. All the other sponsors, g'day to the other Angry Birds boys, and the old man who's watching at home.
Hell yeah, man. Celebrating the style for us and go and enjoy celebrating off with the boys. Split 1 winner finally goes your way, Matt van der Kraan. Long time coming, but glad it's finally happened, mate. Congratulations.
Thanks, boys. Love your work.
Righto. And tonight we now have to step aside and pick our driver of the day. And I think we're all going to sit here and say Luke Orman is going to pick up our Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day. That is the run on board for Matt van der Kraan down the start-finish line. When the hole opens, a true race car driver will drive his car down through that gap. So that is how he picked it up on the final lap of the race. That one's going to live in the memory books for a little while. Funky circumstances, but he took advantage of it nicely.
Yeah, if you no longer go for a gap, etc., Matt van der Kraan was really good that race, and he didn't stop under that safety car when a lot of people did, but because he had so front-loaded his fuel strategy at the first green flag stop, it didn't matter anyway. So he was absolutely in contention for that podium on a strategy different to what Scott Gamble and Jordan Ross were doing, not even including Gamble and Ross's last lap strategy.
Yeah, and an odd one, but at least, you know, the spirit of racing lives on. Celebration once again, our Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day. 15 spots gained by Luke Allman to finish in 8th spot. There was a couple drivers who gained 15 spots here tonight, so I want to say a shout out to Jamie McKnight as well, who also managed to gain it. Luke Allman finished just that couple of spots further up. Another one of those drivers who took the alternate strategy and pit underneath the safety car, recognizing one more stop that they needed to make later on in the race, and managed to grab some track position, made the most of it inside the top 10. He will absolutely love that one. So congratulations to Luke Allman on Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day. That is it for tonight's racing action. Next week we are off to Snetterton, to Britain, and I'm not seeing a drop of water in the background of that sky. I don't think we're going to be seeing water this season. In fact, I'm pretty confident we're not going to be seeing rain in the V8 Veterans until next season at the absolute earliest. But so if it was going to happen, Britain would be the place for it. We've been to 2 British tracks this season. So that is what we've got in store for us next week. On Thursday, the 13th of February, we'll join you then from 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me again, Dave. Another pleasurable journey through Japan. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. Have a good night.
Yeah, absolutely. And then right towards the end there, Scott Mackay made up a position which moved your average up to 20th.
Oh, yeah, well, Scott Gamble gained one and lost one on the final lap as well, so shuffled around at the front end of town as well. On behalf of all of the sponsors that bring it to us, our title sponsor, RaceKraft Simulations, that bring us the V8 Veterans, Logitech G, Nova Sim Sports, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, Play One Sim Gear, LGC Images, Chubby Buns Burgers with our driver of the day sponsor, and SimSpeed as well. Those are the sponsors that get it done for the V8 Veterans. See you all again next week.